right? Boxing and unboxing, right? So we have discussed, we just discussed what are value type and reference type. Yes or no? Value type means the type is struct, and reference type means the type is a class, right? And we have already discussed object is a value type or reference type. Can anybody tell me?
Reference type.
Reference type. And who is the superclass of all .NET types?
Object.
That so if object is the superclass of all .NET types, then any value in the world, right, you can store inside the object, right? Whether it is a string value, whether it is an integer value, whether it is a binary value, whether it is an employee object, anything, product, student, anything you can store inside the object, right? Because object is the superclass. As it is the superclass, it is having the superpower. As it is having the superpower, it can store anything. Anything means it can store value type and it can store a reference type, right? With this keep in mind, let us try to understand the concept called boxing and unboxing, right? So this concept boxing and unboxing are related to value type and reference type, right? So what we will do now is first we will try to understand boxing and unboxing with example. Then we will see the intermediate language code of these two applications. I mean intermediate language code of boxing and unboxing. Then we will see the performance implication of boxing and unboxing. We will see whether boxing is good for performance or unboxing is good for performance, right? So we will see, and then we will conclude what we need to do while we are developing our real-time application. Because see, most of the time, I know who are working now, who are working in real-time project in company, and if some of our and some of them are attending my training, they might be using object somewhere in their application, right? Then at the end of this session, then you will identify yourself whether it is good to use object data type or not, right? So with this keep in mind, because see, whenever we are developing an application, three things are important. What are the three things? First of all, the business logic should be perfect. Whatever our motto is to do one application. Application means to perform some business logic, right? That business logic should be performed well. Well means whatever we are thinking, that application should do the same thing. Second thing, the security of the application is very important, because if we are developing an application, security is very important. Why I'm saying security is very important? Because I have worked on one of the SBI client project, that is loyalty management, right? If you are having any debit card and credit card, then you might be know there is something called a loyalty program, right? SBI rewards, right? If you are doing some online transaction using your credit card and debit card, you are getting some loyalty point, and using those loyalty point, you can redeem many things, right? If you go to the web and if you search SBI rewards, this is the project currently I'm working, SBI rewards, right? This is the project I'm working, and this project is developed by my company loyalty rewards, right? So SBI rewards. And if you are having some your debit card or credit card, if you have not yet checked, so you can log into this site, and if you are doing some online transaction, then definitely you will having some reward point. And using this reward point, you can redeem, you can do flight booking, you can do recharge, you can do bus booking, movie travel, right? Anything. You can also convert your point to some gift card, right? So any kind you can do, see, right? So why security is important? Because we have developed some code, there is a security wall, and within 10 minutes we lose 60 lakhs. In 10 minutes only, our company lost 60 lakhs. We will pay 60 lakhs to the SBI because it is our fault, right? So security is one of the most important point. And third point is performance, right? Because see, if you are developing one application, and if your application is taking more time to load, then will you wait for that application to load, or will you move to the next? Suppose you are saying something. Suppose you are looking at some concept called auto mapper in CSharp, right? Auto mapper in CSharp, right? So you can see there are very more number of articles are there on automapper. Suppose you are clicking on this link, and if this page taking more time to load, then will you wait or will you come back and will you check the other articles? You will check the other side now, because nobody have time. Nobody has time to wait for a longer period of time. Everyone wants to do their task in few seconds, few milliseconds. So performance is one of the most criteria if you are developing any real-time application. So these are the things. Now let us understand what we mean by boxing and unboxing. So this is a simple example, and here you can see I am having three statement or three line of code. This is line number 1, this is line number 2, and this is line number 3. Unboxing and unboxing concept comes into picture with the value type and reference type. Here you can see integer is a value type, object is a reference type, and again integer is a value type, right? So in this case, if I'm storing 10 inside the x variable, then there is no concept of a boxing and unboxing, because it's a value and I am storing that value inside a value type. Clear? Right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, so when this statement integer x1 equals to 10 is going to be executed, an integer variable x will be created. It's a value type. At what memory location it is going to create?
Stack.
Yeah, and in that stack memory, that value 10 is going to be stored, right? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
So line number 1 execute means integer 1 memory and location will be there in the stack memory with the size 4 byte and with the name x, and there we will store the value 10, right? And in this case, whenever you are storing the value inside a value data type, then there is no concept called boxing and unboxing comes into picture. So here no boxing and no unboxing. Now let's see what happens when you execute the second statement, right? So in this case, x we have already know x is a value type, right? That means it is holding a value. Now we are trying to store that value inside the y variable. Is that applicable? Do we get any error? It will accept. First of all, tell me, who is the superclass? Integer is the superclass or object is the superclass?
Object is a superclass.
Object.
Superclass means it has the superpower. So you can consider integer is a child of object. Object is not the child of an integer. Integer is the child of object. So whatever your child has hold, that you can easily store inside your parent, right? So in this case, x is a child of object. Object is the superclass. As it is the superclass, it has superpower. It can store anything, right? It don't require typecasting. Nothing is required. It can store all the values in the world directly. Okay, to make you understand, suppose what I'm doing, right? So I'm creating one object data. Object x equals to, I'm storing 10 integer value, it is acceptable. I'm creating C, small a and capital, there is no. So 20.5 if it's a float value, it is acceptable, right? Object z equals to false, so it is a boolean value, it is also acceptable, right? Suppose I'm storing object p equals to new example, this is also acceptable. Yes or no? That means you can say I'm storing integer, I'm storing float, I'm storing boolean, even I'm storing a complex type inside this object variable, right? So if don't be confused, this capital O and small o, the same thing we have already discussed in our string class. So class string s is actually the class, and small s is nothing but your alternative name, right? So in this case, whether if you use small o or capital O, it doesn't matter. If you go to the definition, you will see that it's a capital. Hello, my voice is audible now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, very much.
Okay, fine. So the point that you need to remember, object is the superclass. you can store any kind of values without typecasting. Am I doing any kind of typecasting here? Am I converting this to float? No, I'm not converting this to float, right? Even if you convert, you will not get any error because it's a superclass. It can store float data. So if I am storing the float value directly, do I need to typecast to float? Not required. If you do typecast, that is a redundant, right? It can swing cast is redundant, right? So it is not required at all because it can store the data directly. Then why I'm going to do a typecast? Not required. So object is the superclass and it can store any kind of values, right? It can store anything in the while. So in this case, when you execute this line number 2, it will going to give you any error or not?
No.
No, because object is the superclass. X is storing a value. That 10 value you can easily store inside this y variable, right? See, when this statement, line number 2 statement is executed, we are moving the value x, that is 10, to an object data type. If you remember, object is the parent class of all .NET framework. When you move a value type to a reference type, it is called function. And as I remember, and if you remember, when this statement is executed, object is a value type or reference type.
Reference type.
Reference type means that memory allocation will be done where? If so, and in that memory, what value it is going to store? What x is holding? X is holding 10. So 10 will be stored inside the heap memory or not?
Yes.
And this y, it's a reference variable. This y is going to be created inside the stack. And this y will refer to this object which is created inside the heap memory. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay. So here I'm typing boxing. What do you mean by boxing? Now boxing means if you are storing a value type data inside a reference type variable, then it is called boxing. Clear? What is the definition of boxing? Storing value type inside a variable of reference type. So this is what I'm saying. Okay, when we move a value type to a reference type, then it is called boxing. And in this case, what we are moving, say x is a value type or reference type,
Value type.
and we are moving that value type inside y. Y is a reference type or value type.
Reference type.
So whenever you are moving a value type into a reference type, that is called boxing. And while you are doing boxing, typecasting is not required. Is that clear?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Now come to the third statement, line number 3, integer z and integer y. So first of all, y is a reference type or value type?
First.
Reference type. Right? Whenever you want to move a reference type, whenever you are moving a reference type to a value type, this is called unboxing. When we move a reference type to a value type, it is called unboxing. Is that clear?
Yes.
Right? Moving from value to reference type is called boxing, and moving from reference to value type is called unboxing. But the point, guys, that you need to remember, while you are doing unboxing, typecasting is mandatory. Because why? We are storing the data as an object. We do not know what is the destination type, right? So you have to convert that to the destination type, right? So for that, you need to typecast it, right? Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay. So two things you need to remember. If you are moving value type to reference type, then it is called boxing. Typecasting is not required. And if you are moving a reference type to a value type, it is called unboxing, and the typecasting is required. Because we do not know what value is stored inside y. It might be an integer value, it might be a float value, it might be a string value, or it might be a complex object, right? So we need to tell, yeah, please convert that value to that particular type, right? If you are not doing this, then you will get some error. For example, okay. Right. See, this is, there is no boxing and unboxing. Here we are doing boxing. See, if I'm removing this, then I will get an error. Right? Why? Cannot implicitly convert type object to int. So whenever you are storing the value in object means it's object type. Here you must, so in this example, you can see x equals 10. So you are storing x. So instead of x, you can also store false. So in this case, can I store false inside this z variable?
No.
So we have to mention, we have to infer the compiler that please convert this value to integer type. In this case, it is integer type. But even integer type, it is not going to be convertible, right? Incompatible data type. So at runtime, we will get some exception, right? So boxing and unboxing is this one. So you can see we are getting some exception. Specified cast is not valid. But in this case, if you store X, then this conversion will be happen and you will not get any error. Now, let us see the IL code. Let us build the solution and let us try to observe the IL code. So where this application is created, open folder, go to B, not to OBJ, go to bin, debug, and just copy the path. Then open Visual Studio 20, open command, okay, developer command prompt. Then type ILDASM, press enter. Once you enter, open click, file open. Once you click file open, it will open this window. Say, put the path location where your exe is generated. Click on the open button, then it will take you to the exe. So select the exe file and click open. Now if you open this, so the main method is going to contain your code, right? So open the main method. Say, please observe. See what it is saying. You are doing some kind of a boxing, right? Integer 32, you are doing some kind of a boxing. And here you are doing on box, right? So in your code, whenever you are seeing this box means you are performing some kind of a boxing. So here, and whenever you are saying a on box means you are doing unboxing in your application, right? Is that clear?
Yeah.
Right. So box means boxing, right? So in this case, you can see box system.in32. So this statement is nothing but your object y equals to x, and unbox means this is your statement. Integer z equals to integer, right? Is that clear? Or
Yeah.
any question? Clear now. So we have discussed what is boxing and what is unboxing, and I hope many people of you are using the object data type in your application, right? If you use object data type means you are doing some kind of a boxing and unboxing in your application, right? Now let us see how good boxing and unboxing and how good without developing an application, boxing and unboxing, and let's try to observe the performance implication, right? So let me copy this code. So first of all, I need to close the ILDSM code, otherwise I will not able to run the application. Okay. So first of all, this is one method of boxing, and this is another method which is without boxing. So I'm just doing integer I equals to 10, and I'm assigning I value to this j variable, right? So whenever you are assigning a value type to a reference type means you are doing
Boxing.
and in this case I'm just creating integer variable and I'm storing that integer variable in another integer variable. So in this case, this is value type, this is also value type. So there is no boxing, right? So this is boxing and this is unboxing. But the functionality, if you look, both are same. Just creating one integer variable, storing in object type, creating an integer variable, storing in another integer variable, right? So in this case, we are performing boxing, and in this example, we are not performing any kind of a boxing and unboxing. Is that clear?
Yes, clear.
Now come to the main method. Okay, so now I'm going to invoke this method. I will invoke this method 1 lakh time. So I'm calling this method using a for loop this number of time. I'm calling the same onboxing method also using a for loop and the same number of times, right? That means, and here I'm using stopwatch, right? So guys, whenever you want to measure the performance of an application or performance of your code or performance of your loop or performance of your method, right? So you need to use this stopwatch. Stopwatch is a very useful functionality provided by system.diagnostics namespace, right? So this is the namespace this stopwatch belongs to, and it's very useful. So you need to create an instance of stopwatch, then you just need to call the start method. So once you call the start method, stopwatch will start, and then it will execute this loop. Once the loop completes its execution, you just need to call the stop method, right? Once you call the stop method, then it will capture how many milliseconds this for loop took, right? This for loop took how many milliseconds, and how you will get that? We just need to call the elapsed milliseconds property on this object. Once you call this property, then it will give you the time taken by this for loop in millisecond, right? Then again, I'm doing the same thing. I'm creating another instance of the stopwatch. I'm calling the start method, right? And I'm executing the loop same number of times. This loop is going to be executed this number of time, and the same number of time this loop is going to be executed. The only difference is that here I'm calling the boxing method, here I'm calling the unboxing method. Then once this for loop completes its execution, I just call the stop method, and then I just print how many times, how many milliseconds this for loop took to complete this number of execution. And then I'm just printing the value, and then I'm stopping application, right? Now let us observe, now let us run the application and see how many milliseconds this boxing method took and how many milliseconds this without boxing method. Okay, let's run the application. See, you can see boxing took 27 milliseconds, and without boxing took how many milliseconds? 17 milliseconds. Means there is a clear 10 milliseconds difference or not?
Yes.
And why this 10 millisecond difference? Because of the boxing. Means whenever you are storing the value 10, right? So what happened in this case? Whenever you are storing the value integer, it is not going to store that value as an integer, right? It is going to convert that value to object type, and then it is going to store that value inside the object, right? So that conversion, that converting value 100 to object is taking 10 milliseconds. Clear?
Okay. Yeah.
And in this case, there is no conversion is required because it's a value and you are storing it's a value. No need to convert that value to object type, right? Directly you can store. But in this case, that value is converted into object type and then it is going to store. This is called boxing. And you can see boxing is how dangerous. So if in your application, if you are using object data type, then guys, please try to minimize or try to reduce the use of object data. If there is no other options, then you can use object data type. But see, in this case, I can do the same functionality using integer, and here I'm using object. In both of the case, I'm getting the output as expected. But in this case, it will take more time than this one, and this is because of the boxing. Right? Is that clear?
Yeah.
Okay. Now let's say another example for unboxing. Right? See, the same thing. I'm doing the same thing. I'm executing the loop. Same number of times, same stopwatch I'm using. And here unboxing, and here without boxing and unboxing. Here you can see we are creating an object data type where we store the value 100. And if you want to store convert that value to integer data type, then this casting is required. Yes or no?
Yes, typecasting.
Typecasting is required. And in this case, there is no boxing and unboxing. You are storing the value in integer data type, and I am storing that value inside another integer data type. Here you are storing object to value means unboxing, right? So when we move the object data type to a value data type, then that concept is called unboxing, and in this case, typecasting is required. So in this case, explicit typecasting is required. In the previous example, implicit typecasting is there, right? In the previous example, the example what we have seen in the previous, so in this case, whenever you are doing this, it means you are doing some implicit typecasting, right? It will implicitly convert this value to object,
Yes.
right? And this, but the explicit typecasting is not acceptable. Why? Because integer is not the superclass of object. Object is the superclass, so it can store anything. And as it can store anything, so explicit typecasting is not required. But in this case, object can store anything, but integer cannot store anything. Na? Integer can only store integer type value. So explicit typecasting is required. So in this case, we are doing explicit typecasting, and in this case, no typecasting is there, right? So this explicit typecasting will take time, extra time. Now let's run the application and see the output. See, unboxing took 38 milliseconds, and without boxing and unboxing to 26 milliseconds. So there is a clear 10 to 12 milliseconds in difference. So in your application, try to reduce the use of object data type as much as possible, right? So that's it. And we have completed our chapter 2. And if anybody having any doubt related to today's session, they can ask me. Anybody having any question?
No, sir.
Okay.
It's clear.
Okay, fine. So tomorrow we are going to start our OOPS concept. So basically, I'll give a introduction to our OOPS programming concept. What is OOPS? What are the different principles? Why exactly we need OOPS, right? And then from Monday onwards, we'll start the object-oriented programming, right? So guys, please don't miss a single class from tomorrow onwards, because whatever as of now we have discussed, these are the basic concepts, right? This is not required. I mean, it is required to understand the further concept, but from development point of view, these are the things which is common. But if you want to master in CSharp programming language, right, the OOPS concept is important. Without OOPS concept, you cannot implement any design patterns. If you look at my course syllabus, we have so many design patterns, right? So we have 23 gang of work means GOP, 23 design patterns, right? We have dependency injection design pattern. We have a repository design pattern. If you want to understand the design patterns very frequently, and if you want to capture the design patterns in a easier time or much simpler in lesser number of time, then understanding OOPS concept is must. Without OOPS concept, you cannot understand the design pattern. OOPS concept in the sense, don't think that encapsulation, inheritance, polymorphism, and abstraction is there. One simple example. That's it. No, OOPS concept is a lot more there. So giving the definition and giving a simple example is not OOPS concept. OOPS concept means you need to understand is bit by bit things, right? As of now, what we have discussed, those are the only basic concept, and basic concept is required because see, because if you don't understand what is call by value and call by function, you cannot understand the rest of the concept. Yeah, recursion is not required. So recursion, we are not going to develop any kind of application using a recursion, right? You are not going to develop, right? So in your real-time application, if you are developing any web kind of application, then this user input to output is not required. Command line argument is not required, but string is required, static is required, properties is required, right? The stack and heap memory, as a developer, we are not going to work with stack and heap memory. It is internally managed by the framework. This boxing and unboxing is internally managed by the firmware. But understanding the concept is important. If you do not understand where the memory is going to be created, how the memory is going to be created, doesn't make sense. Because see, we are working from our academics. In our academics, we started learning C programming language, C++ language, Java language. But we never understand, no, they never touch, they never teach us how the memory is allocated, where the memory is allocated, right? How if we are executing a program, that program first of all will be brought back into the RAM, right? So suppose you can see they are never showing us this kind of scenario, right? So they never show open that task manager. They never show that Visual Studio is the program file which should be brought back into the process. Then only you can develop the application. Once you start developing the application, then that application will be brought back into the RAM, right? So you can see as soon as I start the application, you can see that exe file is loaded inside the RAM, and inside this exe file, you can see it will allocate memory, right, inside the RAM, right? So whatever the variables we are going to create, those variables are going to be created inside this RAM. Again, inside the RAM, we have two kinds of memory. One is stack memory, another is heap memory, right? Which variable is created inside the stack memory? Which variable is created inside the heap memory? And how long they are going to be there inside the memory? So we need to understand these things, right? So understanding is important. See, writing a code, you can copy the code from the Stack Overflow or from any website, but understanding the code is important. And if I'm not wrong, then most of the 99% developers are taking help from Stack Overflow. Nobody, as a developer, when you start working in a real kind of project, you are not going to write everything by your own, right? Most of the developer, what they are doing, they are just doing the copy paste, right? So we cannot say we are full stack developer. We can say we are copy paste developer. If I'm saying copy paste developer, then it is not wrong, right? Okay, can anybody tell me who are working in any real kind of project, they have never copy paste anything from Stack Overflow? Any single developer?
Yes.
You are always copy pasting the things from Stack Overflow or not? From any other website or not?
Yes. Yes.
Right? That is fine. So, but the thing what you need to understand is you need to understand the code. If I am doing some copy paste, then I need to understand what exactly the code is, right? We need to understand how the code is going to be executed, where the code is going to be executed. Understanding is important thing. Copy paste is another thing, right? We cannot say I never say I am a full stack developer because I never develop anything by my own. I'm always taking help from others, my seniors, my juniors, my colleagues, from internet, from YouTube videos, from Udemy courses. I always start learning something new, right? But I cannot say that I'm a full stack developer, right? Because I never develop anything by my own. I'm always taking help from others. And the same thing is also in real-time application. So if you are thinking, if you are a fresher and if you are thinking that when I start working, I have to develop everything by my own, you are in wrong. So no developer, whether he is having 2 years, 5 years, even 20 years of experience, they're taking help from others, right? Taking help from others is a good thing, not bad. But understanding what you are taking, what you are copy pasting, you need to understand the code. Suppose I'm writing this code, you can get this stopwatch kind of things from internet. But if you do not know what is the use of this stack method, what is the use of this property, how to use this, right? What exactly happening when I use this, right? This is a for loop. This is my code I have taken from internet. So what is this? What is integer I equals to this? What is I equals to less than this? What is I plus plus? This is your initialization. This is your condition. This is your increment and decrement statement. This is your body. And if you don't know, this statement is going to be executed only once. After executing this statement, it will come to this part. So it will check whether the condition is fine or not. After checking the condition, if it returns true, then it will come inside the body. After executing the body, it will come to this part only. It will increment the counter variable. After incrementing the counter variable, it will again check the condition. If the condition is true, then again it is going to execute the loop body. The same process will continue until this condition is false. Once the condition is false, it will not enter inside. It will skip the execution of the body. So understanding this thing is important. Writing the code is not important, but how the code is executing, understanding that execution process is important.